Hello, I'm Neil Atkinson and I host the Anfield Wrap. And what we're going to be doing with our Monday free shows going forward is we're going to film them and put them on this YouTube channel so you'll be able to watch them if you choose to. I mean, it's mostly just men sitting in a room and talking, but I never know, it could be what you want as a viewer. We'll be doing that and that'll be available for you as well as through our free audio channels. But what we're also looking to do this year is more and more video. So do think about subscribing, do think about coming aboard for us. We're going to be doing post-match shows, we're going to be doing stuff that's preview shows, we're going to be doing stuff that's longer looks at games after they're finished. It's all going to be to start with on this YouTube channel, and then at some point it's going to be like our other audio product, it's going to go behind a paywall. But to start with though, you've got this season, this is our Anfield Wrap free show. Before the first game, it was me, John Gibbons, Ian Ryan and Ian Salmon, and here it is. This is the Anfield Wrap, and it's the Anfield Wrap live streamed for the first time. We only put it on the Facebook subscribers group about an hour ago, and the reason why is we're trialling the Anfield Wrap live stream because on Thursday, on transfer deadline day, in association with RedsBet, who also sponsor this show, John Gibbons, me and you, we are going to do from 12 o'clock till 5 o'clock minimum transfer deadline day live show, live stream, talking to all sorts of supporters. We are the alternative transfer deadline day, and I, for one, am excited.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm a little bit gutted it's only 5 hours now. I thought we were going to do a 10-11 hour stint, but obviously they've closed it a bit early this year. Yeah, so they've done us a little bit, but who knows? We might just carry on if we're enjoying ourselves, mate.
If we're having a great time, why stop?
If the live shows we've done over the last few weeks are anything to go by.
Yeah, we just can't see people's hands in the air, unfortunately, on this one. But no, we will be doing deadline day. So what we're going to be doing is we'll have some stuff that's set up and pre-recorded. We'll have spoken to other people, but if something breaks, we're going to try and get people on the phone. We're going to try and speak to all of our supporters, and what we're actually seeing it as is an opportunity to do something that surrounds itself with, I'd say, sort of sensible fan voices, people who understand the slight ridiculousness of the entire enterprise on the one hand, but who love the club on the other and want to talk about it. You know all of our contributors, you know who they are, and we've been working with them for many a year now, and me and John are going to have a meeting tomorrow and work out which ones of them we're speaking to.
No, we'll be good, and I think the worst thing about these sometimes is that, like, they're trying to force action in, aren't they? And they're saying, something's definitely going to happen, and there'll be none of that with us. If nothing's happening, we'll just speak to the fans about the transfer window in total and what they've thought of it, and where they think they stand, and where they think they might be short, and look forward to the season and things like that. So if there's nothing going on, we'll find things to talk about, but we're not going to be making up rumours of people at airports.
Absolutely not. We're not going to be following anyone across the skies either, although you never know. It might get interesting. So all of that is to come. We're really looking forward to it. It's on Thursday. We'll start to put it through all of our channels where you can listen to it. It is from 12 noon on Thursday through until 5 p.m. We may well have something running from about 11:30 so that we can build the audience, because that's a thing. So there might be some sort of special unique content that we've recorded between 11:30 and 12 on there as well. I'm literally making this up as I go along. It's all in association with RedsBet, and with RedsBet this season they're offering a fantasy league through the season. They're going to offer individual ones as they go, but there's one through the season with a £100,000 prize pool, and you can enter for free now. RedsBet.com. Obviously, as we always say, be gamble aware, but there's a fantasy prize pool, one free entry worth £22, and £100,000 can be won out of that prize pool.
A cool 100 grand, I would say.
That the prize pool is made up of a cool 100k, 100 big ones. I've got not only John Gibbons, but I've got Ian Ryan and Ian Salmon here with me today, which is really pleasing, because we're going to have a big chat about Liverpool 5, Napoli 0. We've also got Josh Sexton, who went to the Big Red Neighbours event in Anfield on Saturday, and he spoke to David Fairclough. We're going to be dropping that in. We're going to have a chat about the manager with James Pearce. A really good interview. The first part of it's out. The second part may well be out by the time you hear this. It isn't out yet for us. And the transfers. We're going to be talking about the transfers and stupidly looking forward to the whole thing. All of that to come across the next 50 minutes or so. But we are going to start Liverpool 5, Napoli 0. Ian Ryan. And let's caveat it. Napoli a week behind the Reds. They have lost the manager recently, but they've got a very good one in, and they were a very good side last season. You can do all the caveats you like. They're only 1 week behind Liverpool, and the previous week Liverpool were performing well and getting results against Man City and Man United.
I think that's all totally fair. I mean, you would never expect to see an Ancelotti team, an Italian team, beaten 5-0 at any stage, really, pre-season or otherwise. So I think that's important, and I think that it just emphasises just how good this Liverpool team are looking going into the season. And I think what you've got now is you've got a group of players who understand exactly what the manager wants, and that's important. And I think there's a lot of talk about bringing in more players, and I could probably easily get on board with that. But I also think, from the manager's point of view, the reason he doesn't look to bring too many in is because it's so important that the players he does bring in, they get what it means to play for this football team. And I don't think playing for his football side is like playing for another team in the division. It's totally different. Pep Guardiola, maybe the similarities there. You can have a conversation around Pochettino as well, but it feels unique playing for this team. And as you said there, Neil, I mean, Napoli didn't know what hit them. You know, week behind or not, they really struggled. They couldn't get up the pitch, and it was an issue for them even moving up 5, 10, 20 yards because this Liverpool team just pressed them to within an inch of their lives. And I think one thing that struck me, and it was something that it was said in the pub. I was watching it in the pub, and this lad was kind of watching the game with his dad, and he said, "Have Liverpool got more players than Napoli?" And I was like, "No, son, they haven't. They've got the same amount of players." And it was a comment that was made in total innocence, but you could absolutely see where he was coming from because at times Liverpool just crawled all over them, and it looked like they had more men. And I think you attack Liverpool at your peril this season. I think because we've got so much pace, so much power on the break, that we are going to frighten teams to death. And I think there'll be a conversation around, well, the bottom 14 may not attack this Liverpool team at times, certainly at Anfield, because then they're going to look at it and think, if we
that's the big challenge, isn't it?
We're going to get picked off. It's a huge challenge, but I think one the manager's he's only too aware of. You know, he's going into his third full season here. You know, his fourth season. He understands the league now, so he'll know what those challenges are. You know. Previously you've had West Brom, you swapped that for a Cardiff, for instance. So there's going to be sides who don't want to attack and don't want to play. But I think there's enough in that Liverpool team now, and you've added as well. You've added someone like Keita. So I think what was apparent to me is that whilst there's loads of pace, there's loads of power in there. That's all very, very good. But you've got movement that is just absolutely frightening teams to death. And you can have pace, you can have power, but you've got to have that movement as well. And you've got to have lads with the ability to pick players out. We've got that. You saw it several times against Napoli. Lads who can spray balls 30, 40, 50, 60 yards and find their target. Yeah. And you go from there. And now you've also got Keita, who's making these runs from midfield, and there's a real appreciation of space within this Liverpool team as well. Lads are moving with purpose. They know that they're leaving space for someone to make a run into, and I just think it's so difficult to defend against.
John, we had a lovely view in the ground, fair play. One of the things that struck me, I was sitting next to Dan Morgan for the first half. We were separate, and there was this point where Napoli played really well to get out. Liverpool swarmed all over them, as Ian was just describing, and Napoli played really well to get out. And all they did was get to the halfway line with all of our lads back behind the ball. And I literally went, "Oh, they've done well there." And you're like, yeah, they've just had to play that well to get 20 yards up the pitch. And when you stop to think about that, I was thinking, wow. And it involved 6 or 7 players just to get them 20, 30 yards up the pitch with a little bit of space to play.
Yeah, they seem to be really in tune with what they should be doing on and off the ball. And that goes back to Ian's point where you're talking about, you know, would you throw another one in now when they've obviously done so much work? And, you know, I think you would for the right person, but you wouldn't necessarily just for the sake of it. And you think of Oxlade-Chamberlain last season and how long it took him to sort of look like a Liverpool player, really, and it was because he come in late. These lads, they seem to understand each other really well. They seem to understand exactly what the manager wants. Sturridge said after the game, didn't he, one of his takes from it was that he was pleased that, you know, about everyone executing what the manager wanted. And this is just pre-season, you know, this is pre-season where we've made a lot of changes. You've seen a lot of different people, some of whom you wouldn't necessarily expect to see, at least for a while, for Liverpool, and they all got it. They all know what they should be doing, and some of it was great to watch. And Napoli are a decent team, as Ian said. And I think sometimes you look at the Italian league in pre-season. You know, I remember this is going back years, but a 5-0 win against Parma at home with I think it was an early sort of Gary McAllister game, and getting really excited, and then we didn't actually start the season that well then. So I'm always kind of tempted with that in the back of my head. But I think look, this team are looking fantastic at the moment, and I think there's a lot more they could do. I thought, there's a few times where it didn't quite click, and there's a few attacking occasions where, you know, the last ball maybe wasn't quite there or something. So I think there's even more to come from this side, is I guess what I'm saying. But you're right, Neil, on and off the ball, they just seem so kind of in tuned. And I think Milner's made the comments as well, as anyway, you expect what Liverpool are doing now, you'd expect to see 2-3 months into a season, but we're showing it already, and yeah, it's great to see.
The manager's spoken a lot, Ian Salmon, about keeping the group together, and one of the things that we get there is this front three. They're all together again. again for the first time, and they're still playing in that diagonal line. You've got Mane deepest, you've got Firmino through the middle, and then you've got Salah, the point of the attack, but playing right up on the right-hand side, and almost playing like a centre-half at times on the left-back, being really, really difficult to play against. We talk a lot about his pace, but there's a physicality about him as well. He's looking for a scrap there. Liverpool go long to him on a fair few occasions, and he either thinks, well, I'll be a big nuisance at the very least, or my touch will be spot on and we'll be away.
His movement again, his movement's absolutely phenomenal. The movement for the goal, I mean, before the finish for the goal is obviously incredible, but his movement for it's fantastic. The fact that he's receiving balls, he's in a position to receive balls from Alisson. The fact that Alisson can hit him from that distance is going to be a massive tool. It's like the Reina to Torres assists. We're going to see Alisson getting assists this season because of Salah's movement. But they've come back, the three of them. They look hungry for this. They look like they haven't missed a day's training. They look like they've gone straight from where they started last season, where they finished last season as a base, and they've built on the base. I'm not having any of these caveats at all. I'm not having the Napoli a week behind us. I'm not having the you don't beat Italian sides 5-0.
Tottenham got thumped actually the day after, by I don't know, another Italian team.
You don't beat Porto 5-0. You don't put 5 goals past Roma in 20 minutes. You don't do these things. So this is just another one that you're not supposed to do that we've done. I think we're in a position now where we've got an absolutely phenomenal squad who are performing on and off the pitch, because the feel from this team at the moment is like nothing I've ever felt in my entire life. The way this team is connecting to the fan base, something has switched. I know we talked about this a lot on other shows, but something has switched over the summer where they know. I know you're referencing on the pink about the fact this means something to them. They've actually taken a slogan and they've meant something. And this team has then taken that and gone, okay, we can work with this. And whether it is, the appointments in the back room for the people who are actually liaising with the fans, obviously Tony predominantly, but there is a connection between clubs and fans that started somewhere in January and moved upwards through the final and has gone to another level now. So we've got a fantastic squad, and we've got the fan base that believes in them, but primarily those three. If we've got those three on the pitch at any given time, they're going to be threats. But all of a sudden it looks like we're not desperately relying on the three of them staying fit the entire season like we were last year. Because Sturridge, I know I'm doing the falling in love with Sturridge thing again, as we do every summer, but Sturridge currently looks like a man who is playing at the fittest he's been for a long time. Looks like he's changed his game to adapt to both his body and the manager's needs. The fact that he can ping, 70-yard ball to Moreno?
It was an unbelievable
fantastic pass. That's a Gerrard-esque pass, which we know the Sturridge has got the vision, he's got the feet to do it, but we've not seen him do that. To see him do that, that gives us another option in the front three. The fact that we've got Brewster coming through is another option. Solanke may push on this season. We've got the best front three in the world by quite some distance for my money, and we can only add to that. And the fact that we are once again dropping Mane back, so he's playing basically as a number 10 coming from the wing, with undoubtedly most of the season Robbo overlapping him. With the options we've got on that pitch, building from those front three with everybody else got around them, is absolutely incredible.
To go back to the main fella, not least because he does spend half an hour in the crowd post-match, as Ian says, as part of all of this, Ian Ryan, his enjoyment, I think, his relish since he's come back this pre-season's been massive. It was quite clear he wasn't happy for a variety of different reasons away with Egypt. It is also fair to say that I think for the last month of last season, you could see he was on a physical wane. It's not unreasonable given the time he put in. But what I see there is, I can't imagine how you play against him if you're the full back, and even if you're the centre back coming over, because he can come in, he wants to come inside you. He'll just go through you now because he looks so strong. He'll beat you that way. He's happy now to go outside of you as well. He's happy to tuck back in. He's happy to look back. He's happy to go forward. He's happy just to find his little position for a shot, and that's right the way up the pitch. It's effectively the entirety of the half. He's just a footballer who's got so many options, and it's a fabulous way to be able to play the game, because it means that there's not a strategy you could put in place to deal with him that doesn't involve 2, maybe even 3 men.
I think that's absolutely fair, and I think when you talk about Salah, I mean, you always hoped you were going to be getting something that was pretty special, but I think we've ended up with a world-class footballer, and that's great to see. And I think you're right about his finishing, and what struck me last year is all the different types of goals he can score, and it always sticks out what the manager said about that goal against Leicester, where he's got Harry Maguire all over him, he's crawling all over him, he backs into him, Kenny-esque, and then he turns him. So he uses power. You didn't think he's got that power. He's 5'7", but he's able to hold off a guy who's 6'4", and then he slots. And even the manager comes out after that game and says, I've never seen that goal before. We've absolutely analysed this guy. We know what he can do off the ball, on the ball, the type of finishes he's got in his locker, and there are plenty of them. But we didn't know he had that, and he has got that. But there's so many other things as well. So how do you defend against a guy who can pretty much score every type of goal? And by the way, he's not bad in the air, so he can score headers as well.
Watch for Disney, John.
Absolutely. I heard that comment the other day, it made me laugh. But I think a lot of it comes back to the movement, because he's capable of just drifting across the front three. So it's who goes with him? Well, he's your man, lad. Well, actually, no, I've got these two over here because I'm overloaded now. So it just comes back to it's just so hard to defend against Liverpool, and he's not afraid just to go drifting and I'm not getting much success here, so I'll go and spend 5 minutes over there, and that creates a huge problem. So for me, there's just so much positivity at the minute, and I think you want to be keeping those lads fit and firing and fresh. And I think your point there, Neil, was towards the end of last season, there was an argument to say, Salah dropped off a little bit. It's been a long, hard season. And that, I suppose it brings you back to that comment, could we do with one more? Absolutely yes, in my opinion. John's point before, if you can get the right player in, because the point is, you've got to be a certain type of footballer to play for Jurgen Klopp. But if you could, then it would just ease my concerns a little bit about taking a gamble on keeping that front three fit. And I know Shaqiri's come in and he's looking really, really good, and he can play in different positions, and Klopp wants footballers who are fluid and flexible, and he can operate all over the pitch. I totally get that, but you couldn't have to do with one more in there, in my opinion.
I agree that you could do with one more as well. I'm still hoping the Fekir thing happens before Thursday. But with Salah, you've got to recall also the fact that he's on the pitch that entirety of the time, that last month where he's waning, it's because he's chasing the golden boot. Because he wants to play every second. I mean, any other season, he probably would have rests for half a game or possibly an entire game. But he is chasing the golden boot specifically for that target. So I think we see him wane at that point because of that. But I think that's the only reason. I think otherwise, the whole season he would have stayed at exactly the same level he'd been all the way through. John,
there's a Steve Graves line, which is that he'd like Liverpool to buy all the players because he thinks they'll all be better if they play for Liverpool. And I think that there's an element of truth in that. There's also the fact that some players, when they get the red shirt, some of them do fold under the weight of it. But others, you get the impression that playing for Liverpool, if the moment's right, if it all clicks, it kicks them on, and it can keep kicking them on. And that's what really excites me about Salah this season, is that I was one who was coming into it thinking, well, if he breaks 30, I'll be happy. And it's an unreasonable expectation to think any more from him. Off what I've seen in this pre-season, it does look as though he might actually have, and this is the thing I didn't think I'd be saying, but another slight level to go up, that there is more to come. And I think that's partially because of the fact that he does seem to be loving being a Liverpool player. We can get carried away with romantic notions, but he does appear to be inspired by being a Liverpool player, by being Liverpool's best player, rather than inhibited by it.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said there, 100%. I think the idea that there's more to come from him, I think even if he just maintains that level that he showed from November onwards, then he'll have a better season. I think I've mentioned it on a few times on a few shows recently, but he doesn't. It's only really from, I think, Everton and home onwards that we're thinking, bloody hell, this guy's this really, really top level player. Up to then, I think he was showing talent, but it's from then that he really kicks on and starts doing silly numbers, if you like. And I think
it's bizarre to think that for the first 2 months of the season we thought he was quite wasteful.
Yeah, exactly, and that was there, and that was sort of a common thought throughout the league, really. And then he just goes on this amazing one. So even if he just does that, but I agree with you, Neil. I think there is another level to come. I think it was funny speaking to Glenn Price, who's been everywhere this summer. I think he's done every game more or less, but he's been watching them train, obviously out in the US, but also a little bit in Evian as well, and just said his finishing's just absolutely next level. There's a lot of good finishers at Liverpool Football Club, as you would imagine, but he said Salah's, it's everyone, it's every type of finish, it's everything just going in at the moment. And he just looks so confident in himself, and he looks very at peace with how brilliant he is at football. And I know that sounds stupid, but it's not phasing. It doesn't
always happen, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't always happen, and I think he doesn't look like there's any kind of all the pressure's on me to do it. He's like, oh yeah, don't worry, I've got it. you know, and I think that's a certain type of personality, and I don't know how much of it's to do with his faith or what, but he just seems to be taking the whole "I'm now a world superstar" thing remarkably in his stride. Whereas I'd have lost my head, Neil, I'll be honest with you. So and that's brilliant, and he is enjoying it. I mean, look, he didn't have to do that long with the crowd at Dublin. You know, this idea that they wanted everyone to, they brought these scarves on and they wanted all the players to dish them out, and that sounded so. They all did that, and then about half of them signed stuff and about half of them went in to kind of get a shower. Salah was the one who wanted to sign stuff. But, I mean, I went and tried to do the mix zone, and you stayed, and I know you said he was there, like, it was close to half an hour, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was half an hour.
Just getting a picture with kind of everyone who wanted one. And those who were going on Tuesday are in for the treat, I think, because I think they're going to try and do something similar either before or after with a lot of the players and things like that, and trying to get people involved. But he's doing more than he needs to. And, you know, we've been watching him quite closely because we've been closer to the action on these tours because we get kind of better access and things like that. And he's got time for anyone. He's got time, you know. He's not too bothered about doing interviews or anything like that. But in terms of supporters and in terms of people who idolise him and want to see him, like, he always seems to have time for. And I think he's just in a really good place. And I think Egypt was a bit horrible for him, for, as you say, for a lot of reasons. And you know, especially around the camp and stuff, and he must have, you know, I don't think he felt completely fit either, but now he just looks like, yeah, everything's good, everything's positive, loves the team, loves playing for Liverpool, loves the idea of his job, and yeah, it's really, really, really exciting.
Shaqiri at half-time, Ian, it's interesting that Shaqiri who comes on at the interval, and again played really well. Smart link-up play from him across the pitch. Wanted to be involved, I think, all the time. There's a couple of times where you get the impression the manager wanted him to do something a little bit different when he's got it, but broadly you could see he was trying to fit what was around him throughout the game. I
think the conversation around Shaqiri at the minute's really interesting. I agree with you. He looked good when he came on. I'd probably give him man of the match, to be honest. I thought he was that impressive when he came on. I think there's a big difference now, and it's obvious to say, really, you know, playing for Stoke, playing for Liverpool, night and day, and all of a sudden there's options. He's got options left, he's got options right, options in front of him, and he wouldn't have had that at Stoke. There'd have been that pressure as the best player there to try and beat 2 or 3 lads and put one in the top bin. Lad, you don't need to do it anymore. There's 3 lads, 4 lads who've got as much ability, if not more, than you. So you can feed them as well. And that takes the pressure off. And I also think there's something around, he probably knows his last chance saloon for a big club. He's had those spells in Inter Milan, Bayern Munich. Yes, he's won some trophies. But he'll come away from those clubs thinking, I didn't do myself justice. And all of a sudden he's got a chance to play for one of the biggest clubs in Europe, competing in the Champions League again. So that's a huge chance for him. And I think he'll know what the manager expects, and he's coming into a dressing room now where everyone's pulling in the right direction, in the same direction. He won't have had that at Stoke. You can see they're all over the place. You've got half the lads pulling in one way and half the lads pulling the other way. And I think you're coming into a Liverpool dressing room now where they know the demands, they know what the manager needs, they know what he expects. That's hugely important. You know, you think back to, you know, characters in the early 80s, your Souness, your Dalglish, your Hansons, you know, they ran the dressing room, and those characters are probably gone now, but there's still a group of players there who, they won't be afraid to pull you to one side if you're not putting it in. If you're not putting a shift in, or you're looking like you're a little bit lazy or not carrying out the manager's instructions, then you'll get pulled. And I think he's walking into a harmonious dressing room. Everyone is really, really chomping at the bit, and they know they're on the verge of something special. And I think Shaqiri just kind of falls in line with that. And I remember Guardiola giving an interview last season. It might have been to Gary Neville, and he was talking about, you know, what's changed for your Man City team compared to the season before when you first came in. And he said, well, there's loads of players here with ability, but now they're starting to back it up with application as well. And the minute you get your best players, your Kevin De Bruyne, your David Silva, the minute you get them working harder than anyone else, then everyone else just falls in line. And you can see that with Liverpool, really. You know, all the best players work really hard. Firmino, Mane, Salah, they put a shift in. So Shaqiri can't come into this football club and expect to maybe turn it on every now and again. He'll have to fall in line, and the signs so far, it's only pre-season, the signs so far are really, really good. He seems to be fitting in off the pitch as well as on the pitch. You know, you see him having quite a lot of banter with the likes of Sturridge and Naby as well. So it all bodes really, really well, and I think, you know, it just comes back to that what the manager's created. He's created something where off the pitch people understand their job, and on the pitch people understand their job as well. And actually, if you're not doing what you should be doing, there's enough characters there to pull you in line and say, actually, lad, this is how we do it now.
I think it's a funny one with Shaqiri, because when we did quite a few specials on the subscription tour player when he signed, and speaking to people who were closest to him, who knew him best, and they all talked about what a good personality was in the dressing room, which maybe surprised me a little bit, because you just imagine it differently, don't you? But everyone always says how popular he was in the dressing room wherever he's been. So I think he has got that. So that hasn't kind of surprised me based on what they've said, that he's getting on with people so well. I think the challenge for Shaqiri might come. Okay, he's saying all the right things now, but you know, if he's not involved in the first 3 games at all, say for whatever reason, then you know, does the muttering start then? Does the how does he react to that? Does he react by working even harder on the training ground? Does he react by running even harder, or does he start getting a bit of a face on? I think that's the challenge, but I think there's a good chance that he will be involved from the off, because I think obviously the manager looked to rotate early last season and may do again this season. But
he
also,
averaged 5 changes a game, didn't he, in the first half of the season?
Yeah. But also there's the idea that Shaqiri can maybe play a little bit deeper than we thought as well, and I think there's times, especially if we need a win, especially home, where you might see all 4 of them on the pitch, and I wasn't expecting to say that a couple of weeks ago, but he has played a little bit deeper, and at times in pre-season, and he's looked strong. He's the way he can, his low centre of gravity really helps him. There was a time in that game with Dublin where he's in a bit of bother, but then next thing he just shifts his body a bit. He's beat 2 men and he's away, and that's quite deep in midfield. And you thought, you can see how this could be an asset for Liverpool. You know, when they're in a little bit of trouble, he takes some knocking off the ball, and so I think there's maybe more opportunities for him than maybe I thought in more different positions.
I think personality-wise, I think the manager's very open about the fact that he looks for what character he's bringing in more, as much as anything. So I think we're fairly safe that if Shaqiri has come in and he's not involved in the first 3 games, and obviously we expect him to be, I don't think he's going to be a disruptive influence, because the manager's going to know enough about him not to bring in anybody who could have the potential to be disruptive. I think he's one of these characters who's being given a role in the media as the player we perceive him to be, where the reality would appear to be completely different. Me personally, as a footballer, I've always liked him. I've always thought he had something. He's the weirdest shaped athlete I've ever seen, because he is not what you expect from a footballer. He's built like a bulldog. He's all chest, he's all back. But as you said, the low centre of gravity, it's that little bit where he's on the left and he suddenly moves between 2 men. You've no idea how he's done it. But he's also playing ridiculously perceptive through balls. There's a through ball down the channel on the right-hand side of the pitch where the obvious ball is into the centre, but he plays it to the right of the penalty area, and I think it's Trent's run, if I remember rightly. It was suddenly on the end of it.
Oh, of course,
It just cuts the entire defence apart. So he's got that in his locker, and this idea that he's playing deeper than we expected. We did expect him to be a substitute for one of the front 3 in easier games when we could give him a rest. He now looks like a lad who could be absolutely instrumental to the midfield at times, because the possession he gets there, he's got a Lallana-esque level of keeping hold of the ball. He's more physical than Lallana, and he's playing the same kind of intelligent ball forward. So I think he could be absolutely crucial. I think we've finally given him the chance to play at the level that he really wants to play at the time he's ready to play at that level, with players who are clearly of an ability higher than anybody he's played with for certainly the last few years, but possibly higher than the players that he was playing with back in the bigger clubs. So, and also going into the dressing room, I think there's one thing to say about the dressing room here, where we're talking about Souness and Dalglish being the leaders of the dressing room. I think our dressing room is very much defined by Milner and Henderson now, because the words you're getting out where they're talking about the younger players, there's a great deal of leadership, obviously leadership coming down from Jurgen, but coming through basically what's the 2 captains of the squad, because you've got 2 very experienced players there who are keeping the group together and clearly enjoying keeping that group together. That's obviously a completely unfounded take based on nothing but gut instinct, but it looks to me like they're the key to how this is working at the moment.
The keeper, Ian, was interesting. Ian Ryan. It was interesting. He got the duration first and foremost. Like, this is it now. This fella's just playing a goal for us, so we need to get him sharp for next week. Got away with a couple, I think it's fair to say, but he's likely to be a little bit rusty. But also, he may be a lucky general. You could see his quality. You can see how commanding he was, and you could see that he's brilliant with his feet.
He was superb with his feet. I mean, I think we all knew his distribution was good, but then when you see him playing for Liverpool and he's doing it, wow, it just hits home what we've been missing, really. And I think a few people have said, you could have given 10 minutes in the midfield and he wouldn't have looked out of place. He was that good with the ball, and all of a sudden you've got another option where you can pass back to him and he's so comfortable with it, left or right, he's so comfortable, and the ability to be able to make a switch of 50, 60 yards, and you see it obviously for the first goal. It's superb. You're right to reference he got away with a couple. I think there's a lot of pressure coming into this game for him. He knows what's gone on before him, and that will probably play into some of this. He knows what's taking place, and it's his first game back. He's obviously had a bit of time off after the World Cup, but the signs were good. And obviously he comes across as a really confident lad as well. And I think to play for this team, to play in front of these fans, you need to have a bit about you. You can't be a shrinking violet. And you know what? At some point he probably will make a mistake, but he looks like the kind of character who will, similar to Van Dijk, he'll shrug it off. And he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. The price tells you he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world, and that's important as well. So it was a decent debut. Yeah, on a different day, one or two things could have gone against him, but as you said, Neil, maybe there's a bit of luck in there. And he, probably didn't cover himself in glory with the one real save he had to make, but you have got to caveat this with it's his first game.
And he made it.
And he did what he had to do with it, and he got it round the post, and it didn't go in the back of the net. Jack Butland had something similar to save yesterday against Leeds. It ends up in the back of the net. So far so good, but I think you can already see, from some of the things that Van Dijk was kind of doing as well, there looks to already be some decent communication in there, and it's got to give assurance to that back forward as well. If you've got a lad that big, that dominating behind you, that's got to help, and I think there's real positive signs.
Yeah, I agree with Ian. More to come, I think, from him, isn't there? He's got that first one out the way now. He's got a clean sheet. He's got a 5-0 win. He's played in front of a crowd. That's similar to what he's going to expect first game of the season against West Ham, 51,000, 99% Liverpool, and he enjoyed it. He gets his nice moment with the kid with the gloves and stuff like that, which is a nice picture that's kind of gone all around the world. And so yeah, seems to be settling in well. He's spoken well whenever he's talked. I think he's got a lot in the bank, hasn't he? Because he's not the other two fellas, and that's the honest situation of what is coming in. Everyone's going to be willing him to do well. Everyone's going to be on his side. Everyone really wants this to work because they've spent so much money, and because we were all desperate to not be talking about goalkeepers as much as we have been for the last 2 years. And so yeah, shaky start in some ways, but he's going in next. He gets to play at Anfield on Tuesday, which I think again will be good for him. And I think I wasn't sure about this extra game. I would have liked a week if you'd have asked me a week or so ago, but now I think it's a good one, and I think I'm sure we'll come on to it, but I think there's a few lads who'll really benefit from it, and then raring to go into West Ham on Sunday. It's good for
Alisson, Ian. It's going to be interesting with the manager because he gives Van Dijk the full 90. He's now in a situation where he's got no Klavan, no Matip, and he doesn't want to play Lovren. So Lovren's back training, and I'm sure that if the manager asked the big dog if he fancies playing against West Ham, he would say yes. Yeah. But the manager's made it clear he doesn't want to do that. So he's it's an interesting game for Gomez and Phillips, really, and also simultaneously we're putting them both on the pitch hoping that neither of them picks up a little knock, which might happen at this stage against Torino. He's even mentioned the manager that he might do something with the formation, but there is a little bit of pressure on that now off the back of this pre-season as to who will partner Van Dijk that first game against West Ham.
Yeah, I think this having the Tuesday game, I think this is momentum now, isn't it? I think if we think of it as a Champions League game and a league game on the Sunday, we wouldn't expect any bigger gap than that. It is a Tuesday to Sunday gap, so it's not going to be detrimental. I think it would make sense to have Phillips play against Torino and save Gomez for the Saturday, because 2 weeks down the line we've got Lovren ready. There may be, the Tarkowski rumours came up again last night, so there may be another signing before Thursday. We don't know. We may have another centre back on the books. But it would make sense for the first full game to be Van Dijk and Gomez. That makes sense as a partnership. That's what we're grooming Gomez to be, the centre back. We've been told he's going to be the centre back going forward. This is going to be his role. To have him on the pitch for the first game of the season makes absolute sense. Lovren's obviously ahead of him in the pecking order, but in order to have him there, I think protecting him on Tuesday would make perfect sense.
John, do you think Phillips has got a fighting chance?
I mean, more so than I did a month ago. I think I think if he was a fullback, he'd be in a much sort of better position. I think centre half always just brings out the nerves in anyone. That you think you're talking about Gomez not being experienced enough, aren't you? He's played a lot more first team football than Phillips has. I think Phillips has really impressed everyone this season, not just in terms of how he's defended, but on the ball, how he's conducted himself, he did. Spent a long time speaking to Glenn Price again in the mix zone, and Glenn spoke really well and seemingly confident. It's an amazing turnaround of his story, from release from Bolton to now us saying, has he got a fighting chance? I think, look, if I was Nat Phillips, I'd have my eye on that first League Cup game, and I'd be hoping for a League One side or something like that, where the manager's going to make 11 changes, and I think that's his best opportunity at the moment. But it's certainly an option that I don't think any of us were talking about a month or two ago.
My other one on this one, Ian, is whether or not he's mentioned a formation change, but whether or not he might have a little look at Klein at centre back against Torino. I'm not sure about that. But he's done strange things at centre back in the past. What are your views?
I don't really see the Klein option, if I'm honest. I'm a little bit surprised that we've maybe not looked to do business at centre half. Whilst I think we're going into the season and it's in the main, it's really, really positive, and I think we're all in agreement on that. I've got a little bit of a concern at centre half. I think Lovren's improved a lot. If you look back to that Spurs game where he has a nightmare, he's come on so much since then, and I think broadly speaking, we're all happy with Lovren now. Certainly it's the second choice centre half. I think there's a big difference between being in charge of the back four but coming in as a second choice centre half, and he complements Van Dijk well. If Van Dijk wasn't there, maybe you'd have one or two concerns about a Lovren-Matip partnership, for instance. But my main issue is that there's a reliability issue with these centre backs. Lovren misses games, Matip misses so many games, and on the quiet as well, Clam's unavailable enough. So all of a sudden you are looking at Joe Gomez, and Gibbo's point there about Gomez, there is an experience. It's really hard to play centre half, because you even see with the greatest centre halves over the last 10-15 years, Rio Ferdinand as a young player made loads of mistakes at centre back. He made loads of mistakes, and it's a concentration thing half the time. You just switch off for a second, you get punished, and that's a concern for me. So the Tarkowski rumours, don't know whether he's a natural fit for the Klopp team. I have to say, Burnley played a totally different way. Is he an upgrade on Matip? Yes, would be the answer for me. But I am a little bit concerned around all this positivity, and I get the conversations around another final third player. I could easily get on board with that, I've said it before, but the centre-back situation does concern me a little bit, and if Van Dijk was to pick up a knock, for instance, that would worry me massively. There's so much good work going on in that midfield, that final third of the pitch. I wouldn't want to take any chances. So if it was up to me, I'd maybe be looking to minimise that risk and do something in the last 3 or 4 days, but it's looking unlikely.
We're going to come on to talk about the last 3 or 4 days in a second or two. We're also going to have a chat about the manager's conversation with James Pearce, which we've got half of so far. We're also just going to be stupidly excited, but as part of the goodwill around the club, Liverpool ran an event for the residents of Anfield on Saturday. It was a big thank you as part of the Red Neighbours programme that the club put together, and 5,000 people turned up. One of them was David Fairclough. Josh Sexton talked to him, and here is that.
Delighted to be joined now by David Fairclough. David, here at the Residents' Day at Anfield today, as a local lad yourself, how important do you think it is to see the club giving back to the community like this?
Well, it is important because everybody's living on the doorstep, and it's become such a big institution now. I grew up only a few hundred yards away, and from the changes in that time have been massive, and the club is now the most imposing building in the area. So it takes up obviously a lot of people have to suffer a little bit of inconvenience from time to time. So it's right that everybody tries to live with each other, and that they understand the way the club's moving, and the club appreciate and respect that there are residents living in the area. So it's a team effort. And I think it's great if it helps with the life to move along smoothly.
Yeah, and you mentioned the inconvenience. Obviously, when we think back to the great Champions League nights last year, one of the things you perhaps don't think of straight away is that the community had thousands of people descending on it sort of every weeknight or on a Tuesday and Wednesday night. And that is important that the club show that and then show their support for that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, Liverpool is such a huge appeal now. It has a huge draw. People come from all over the world, and so the crowds and the people. In fact, you're always in awe now of actually the numbers that are at Anfield. Maybe for almost every day, to be honest with you. Even when there's no games on and things like that, there's still thousands of people milling around the area. It's good for the area. It brings economy and interest, and certainly what the club have done with the building of the new main stand and all the areas surrounding the ground now, it's made the area a whole lot better. it makes it so much more appealing. Stadium is outstanding, I think, in its own right. But generally, I think what's gone on in recent years, I think has only been great for the Anfield and Everton districts.
Yeah, and mentioned to Phil and Alan before about how buoyant the mood feels at the club at the moment, and these sorts of schemes are a big part of that as well, and it's showing that you can give back to the community and value the supporters. That's just as important as how the players are playing on the pitch and how much they're enjoying it.
Yeah, Liverpool is very much a team on the up, the club on the up, and we're an appealing destination once again. We can now appeal to the best players in the world, a la the signing of Van Dijk and Alisson as well in this last year. There was a time when Liverpool was the most appealing club in the world, and we drew the biggest stars. Maybe we kind of fell behind a little bit, but I think we're back up there again. It's really exciting times for the club going forward.
And how much do you think that's down to Jurgen Klopp as a manager, the way that he sort of seems to value all this, seems to value the supporters? You've seen the scenes throughout all the Champions League run last year of him really giving back to the supporters, and then also the club doing this as well.
I think it's important for every Liverpool manager to make a connection with the fans. And certainly Jurgen has done that better than most in recent years. I think he understands Liverpool's enthusiasm and passion. He's spoken about it many times, how he always felt that Liverpool might be the club that would suit him most. He came in and he clearly understands our humour, our passion, our enthusiasm. The fans see that from him, and I think it all looks very good for the future.
And you mentioned the signings before. Obviously, you're known as the super sub for your time in Liverpool. Do you think Xherdan Shaqiri can be the heir to that throne with his early performances?
Well, that remains to be seen. Certainly, he's got an awful lot of talent. I think perhaps in recent years he might have fulfilled the talent and expectation of one of the clubs one or two of the clubs that he's played at. But there's no doubt in that he's got outstanding ability. He's going to be a valuable member of the squad. As Jurgen said, it was a bit of a no-brainer to bring him here. He was, very small price when you see the money that's spent these days for footballers. So we need to have a strong squad because we're going to be challenging on all fronts. Whether Shaqiri scores as many goals as perhaps I was able to do remains to be seen, but if he does, it'll only be a good thing.
Yeah, let's hope so. David, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
David Fairclough and Josh Sexton there talking through the Red Neighbours campaign. Liverpool working away at being better in the community, and it seems to be working for them at the minute. One of the things that came through the manager's conversation with James Pearce, actually across the board, was wanting to feel part of the furniture and wanting Liverpool to be part of something bigger than themselves. But from a sporting point of view, Ian Ryan, the one thing that struck me is he banged one drum 3 times through the conversation. I thought there's one line: we only need to do what we've done already on our best days, but much more often. Another line: we didn't lose the points against City, we lost the points against all the other teams. Another line: that's what we have to show constantly, that desire to fight for the results. First of all, be ready to fight. There is very much, you get the impression this manager's decided that he knows, and he's got a body of evidence to prove it, that he's got a football team that's got the quality to produce any result. He seems to be very much into talking about having the consistency to get as many results as Liverpool may well need.
I think that's right, and I think it'd be nice to get to a stage where, similar to what you saw with Man City last season, where teams are just turning up and they're already beaten and they know they're going to get beat and they'll take it 2-0 and just get out of there. We're not at that stage yet, but you can quickly get to that stage if you start putting some of these smaller teams away early doors, and it is 3s and it's 4s and it's 5s. Then sides just think, well, there's no chance here, and we'll take our defeat and we'll save our efforts for another day. But it comes back to what I was saying earlier on, I suppose, and there is that challenge around what that bottom 14 do when they come to Anfield. And you could have a conversation about United as well, what they do when they come to Anfield, because they're not going to be expressive and expansive. But I think the Shaqiri addition helps with that. John touched on before about positions on the pitch, and I think he's got options within that midfield 3 now, where if he is looking at a Henderson Keita or a Fabinho Keita 2, and then someone like a Shaqiri as your attacking mid, or even Mane. I think that's the beauty of the squad he's put together. There's loads of flexibility in there. Then it helps because you've got players there who are more than happy to drive at the heart of teams and more than happy to beat a man. And when you beat a man, you create space and you start to pull other players out of position, and that's really, really important. And I think one of the knock-ons of not having Coutinho And I think there's lots of times where you don't miss Coutinho last season, but there are games where you do miss him, and it's that ability to create space and drag other players out, which creates gaps, and then you can slot balls in between centre half and full back. And I think that's what he's tried to do with the addition of Shaqiri. So I'm really interested to see where he plays, but I suspect, like Gibbo, that there's every chance, certainly against some of the smaller teams at Anfield, you see him in a very much a central position.
Ian's focusing on Anfield there, Ian Salmon, and I think he's right to do so, because we drew 7 games. I think it was 6 or 7 games. Although we finished the season unbeaten, we did have a number of home draws. But it is worth pointing out that the side we're chasing last season at home, the record was played 19, won 16, drawn 2, lost 1. Away, the record was played 19, won 16, drawn 2, lost 1. That there may well be, which is, by the way,
it's ridiculous.
Back
that in.
But there is an argument here that Liverpool, a lot of the sides we play in the bottom 14, I'd say 10 of them, when we go to their ground, they treat us like the home side, and they very much do the same thing. They get the men behind the ball and look to pick us off, and look to at most pick us off. We are going to have to be able to match something approaching that pace home and away, and that's what the manager's talking about when he's talking to James Pearce. That's what we've got to show all the way through.
Yeah, completely. It's got a bit, that's where we lost any chance of challenging for the league last season. It was on the consistency, it was on the stupid draws. I think what you're looking at with the flexibility of the team now is against these teams who decide to play a low block, if we've got to the point where they know there's no point trying to attack us and they're willing to settle for the point, we're going to be playing a 2-1 everybody else. And that's it. It's going to be bombarding. Its full backs will be coming in behind. We've seen what our full backs can do with crosses. We've seen what they can do, how far they can get up the pitch. We're going to look at a maximum attacking style. I think what we could be potentially looking at next season is how City looked in the first half against us at their place in the Champions League, which is the most attacking formation I've ever seen from anyone, because it was basically, this is all of us. We're just going to hit you like a wall. We've got the players to do that. We've got the players now who, if we're looking at unlocking that little side pass from Shaqiri, the little bit that he's playing the unexpected ball, the movements of Keita that we've all seen pre-season already, just in the first few games, if we're literally playing with 2 central defenders, a holder, and everybody else running at these lads, they're going to fall apart. And we've also got the recovery, we've got the pressing and the recovery, as you said about Napoli, the amount of play Napoli had to do just to get to the halfway line. We can do that against anybody away. We can do that against your Wolves, your Fulhams, whoever we're going against away from home. We can do that there. I think Ian's Wolves are the best team in the country. We've all got to remember that. John, City were ominous against Chelsea, though. They've just come back there and missing a number still of footballers. A number of footballers still haven't even trained with them. And there's something else as well that the manager says, which grabbed my attention, was an issue around sharpness. He said of the World Cup players in general, because it's something that all managers are aware of. He said they come back, yes, they're looking sharp now, nice work, but should they look sharp in that moment or in 3 or 4 weeks? And you'd also think that there could be a theory this season that the sides who best manage their very good World Cup players through the whole season could well garner an advantage. It's interesting, isn't it, that City appear to be approaching it similarly to us, as do Tottenham, that you get the impression there's a number of footballers across the country who are going to be on extended pre-seasons. That might surprise us early on, but we're all trying to maybe get these footballers as fresh as possible come November, come December.
I don't know, City threw Kyle Walker straight in. I think he'd only train one day, and then he's straight in that Charity Shield game, or whatever they're calling it now. Sound like your dad there. I think maybe managers might look at it and it might be kind of a horses for courses thing, not just in terms of the player or what's ready for the player, but who else have we got there. So with Kyle Walker, maybe he's thinking, I could really do with him now, but with other lads have sort of got a little bit more time and a little bit more flexibility. Everyone's got squads to manage and everyone's got problems, and you can think that your club's unique in that, can't you? And you can think your club's, what are we going to do about our centre half thing? And I understand Ian's point completely on it, but other clubs everywhere, including Man City, including all our likely rivals at the top, they're all having these headaches at the moment, and they're all thinking about have we got enough players? When's the best time to bring him back? As you say, someone could look sharp when they come back, but a lot of that's adrenaline, a lot of that's they're coming back to seeing their mates. Oh, great to see, just throw me in, I want to play. You know what I mean? Because it's a game, and everyone just likes playing games, don't they? But it is how you manage that, and I think you often say, Neil, that when you with this early transfer window, early international break. You know, are people going to look at these 4 games in isolation and then think we'll get to there, we'll restock and go again? I think there's probably quite a bit of that going on across the league as well.
Ian, go on.
I was just going to say, and I think what John said there is really fair, and I think you mentioned something the other day, Gibbo, about you ask any fan and they'll always say, do one more, or I need one more, because that's what part of being a fan's about, isn't it? You always want to be the best you can be, and you always think you can improve on what you've got. But what struck me yesterday, or what struck me looking at Liverpool's game v Napoli and City's v Chelsea, is that Liverpool and City just look so much more like they're ready for the season to start. I thought Chelsea were terrible yesterday at times. There was such a lack of intensity to want to close players down, and you don't see that with Liverpool. They look ready to go, you know, now. They could play now and be ready to go. And I think, you know, there's sometimes teams look to ease their way into a new season. I don't see that with Liverpool at all. I think Jurgen Klopp wants them off the blocks, absolutely full throttle from day one. And he's looking at these 4 games and thinking, there's 12 points there for us. There's absolutely 12 points there for us. And he'd be disappointed if we don't get 12 from those first 4.
The transfers then, Ian Salmon, it's looking less and less like something's going to happen for Liverpool. They may well get themselves into a situation where they need a sub-keeper, which I always love. I just love the idea of the sub-keeper meeting. Alright boys, where are we for the sub-keeper? What's on the agenda here? Any other business? It does look like that's the thing that is most likely, it is looking like the thing that's most likely to happen for Liverpool are players leaving. However, the manager in the past has quite emphatically been clear when he thinks Liverpool have finished, and he hasn't been quite as emphatic this time. You do wonder whether or not Liverpool are contemplating an opportunity might come up between now and Thursday at 5.
He was momentarily emphatic a couple of weeks ago, wasn't he? Where it's, you know, I think we're definitely done. I think we're done. We're definitely done. Unless anything else happens, we're definitely done. If anything happens, we won't be done. But until then, we're done. So I'm still naively optimistic about the Fekir deal, because Lars started talking again this morning. He's been quiet for the best part of a week. We went into the summer looking at spending 53 million on this lad. We had him signed. We had the videos done. We had the interviews done. And we've not gone back in for anybody else as second choice. So we specifically wanted this lad. So, pardon me. So if there's a chance that can be done in the last few days, I think we could still do it. We're obviously just looking for something to be done on our terms, or we have walked away completely. And if we've walked away completely, but we identified that area as being somewhere we want to strengthen, and we were already signing Shaqiri, we haven't strengthened it. We haven't done the business that we were definitely no two ways doing. So that makes me think that there's still a possibility of something there. I'm intrigued by the Tarkowski links from last night, because it's kind of like, you know, they brought in a new lad who could well be the replacement. We've been linked with him a couple of times. I also like this idea of Pulisic signed on a Naby Keita deal. I think that'd be a magnificent thing to do for next season. But yeah, the goalies, it's gone very quiet on our goalies leaving at the moment, because there doesn't seem to be a great deal of traffic there, because Mignolet was definitely going, and then Karius was definitely going, and neither appear to be going anywhere at the moment. So I think we could still end up with just one of those being our sub-keeper, which wouldn't be ideal for either, because obviously Mignolet wants football somewhere, and Karius could do with rebuilding his psyche somewhere. So a sub-goalie would be decent. But I think even though, you know, we're 4 days away and it does look like nothing at all is happening, it could all go absolutely insane in the next couple of hours for all I know.
It's going to go insane for someone, John. I mean, that's the nature of this. We were talking before about the thing we're doing on Thursday. I'll come back around to it in a minute, but you know, it's going to be hectic, I think, across the board for a number of clubs. Our neighbours across the park, obviously, are still looking for a central defender and appear to be getting thwarted at every turn, which is a massive shame. There's a lot of sides who are still all saying that they need to do bits, whereas Liverpool are able to play it a bit cooler.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, we're talking about, you know, what would you like to see? We're talking about the cherry on the top of the cake, aren't we? Really, you know, understand what the boys are saying about the centre half, but that's as much about the reliability of what we've got rather than we're short.
Rather than
we're not a body short, are we? We're just talking about the idea of, well, would we like an upgrade, or would we like someone whose body you can rely on a little bit more than kind of what we've got, similar to, you know, the Fekir. Understand Ian's point about, you know, the fact that, you know, we obviously wanted that person and we haven't gone in for anyone else, but I think, you know, Jurgen does. He's saying he's happy with what he's got. He's saying he's content. You know, Curtis Jones has been someone who's emerged last few weeks as an option that maybe he's slightly ahead of schedule to what we thought, and maybe he's thinking about, you know, his path into the first team. I don't know. So, you know, all of us are, as I say, we're talking about the cherry on the top of the cake. Is that one more word as others? I think. You know, you speak to other fans and they're worried. They say, well, we'd expect to do much more than kind of what we've done, and, you know, they're talking about real gaps in squads or real issues around, you know, the teams that we just don't have. You know, like the boys have said, when you watch us play and the harmony of the team, the strength all over, the way they understand each other, the way they work together, and the fact that they all seem to exactly understand what the manager wants. And like Ian said, you know, you're looking at Chelsea in that Community Shield game, and, you know, it's not just individual performances that would concern you if you're a Chelsea fan. It's the fact that the manager looks a long way of installing himself on the side, and that's just one team, you know. And
the season kicks off now.
Exactly.
There's so much time you can work with.
Yeah,
them.
exactly. And so we're in a great position, and we should all be really optimistic. And yeah, we always want more because fans always want more. But yeah, we're in a much better, healthy position, I would say, than most.
Torino first, Ian Salmon, but it's legitimately excited to be looking forward to the whole thing. It's probably the most eagerly anticipated the league season's been for Liverpool supporters for many a year. And I think that, you know, pride can always come before a fall. You can always have expectations that aren't quite there, but you know, again, in the James Pearce piece, which is very much worth reading with Jurgen Klopp. Klopp's making all those noises as well. You know, they've got their own internal expectations. They're not guaranteeing silverware. They're guaranteeing, though he appears to be trying to guarantee insofar as he can, because it is a sporting contest. But he is appear to be trying to guarantee Liverpool are going to be very, very strong and challenging every match.
Oh, completely. I'm buzzing for this. I'm a 54-year-old man, and I'm more excited than I have any right to be. This is...
You didn't know you'd have this excitement left in you.
I honestly didn't. I'm a cynical sod anyway, so I thought I was incapable of being excited. But this team is doing something special. There's a real buzz to this at the moment. It's, as I was saying before, I don't think I've ever seen this approach and this togetherness from a team towards its position within its community, its position within its fan base. I don't think I've ever seen it, genuinely, this kind of contact. Even in the 80s, you know, they were still a removed subject. It was Liverpool, and they were still removed. Yeah, much as you might believe from boys from the black stuff that we were seeing Graham Souness in clubs every other night, it didn't actually happen, unless you went to
not
Conte.
Even Champagne Charlie.
No. If you went to Conte, I think you could see Rushy quite a bit, but allegedly, I never went to Conte. I couldn't get in there. But this is a team that's actually got a relationship to what's going on around it, and it's something you can feel. There's this momentum that you can't quite put your finger on, but you can feel it, and it feels special at the moment. This Liverpool team feels special. It feels like we're on the edge of really achieving something. I don't recall the last time I felt that. 13-14 came out of nowhere. That run of 13-14 was something we didn't see coming. You couldn't sit at the beginning of the season and say, do you know what, I think we can put something together this season. This season, you can sit here and go, do you know what, we can do something this season. We nearly did something last season. Yeah, we nearly won the Champions League. We went to the Champions League final with a team that had 12 fit players. This season, we've added to those 12 fit players. Those 12 fit players know their roles. The lads who've come in and slotted in and know their roles. We could be on the edge of something very, very special at the moment.
There's the line that's underneath all of this is, as I said before, Manchester City. At home, played 19, won 16, drawn 2. Away, played 19, won 16, drawn 2. Ian, the manager was going out of his way to say we can't control what Manchester City do, and that is the point. But we can enjoy what we do, and I think that's going to be the thing that we've got to throw ourselves into. That, you know, Manchester City could get, you know, they could get 114 points. They won't. The most they'll get 108 because we'll beat them home and away. But you can't control what Manchester City do. We've got to very much focus on enjoying being Liverpool supporters.
I agree, and I think the City points, I mean, they're going to be good again. There's no doubt they're going to be the ones to beat. But now, recent history tells us it's hard to retain this Premier League, and it's going to be really hard to get 100 points again. I think the enjoyment point's really interesting. I think as fans, we're going into the season, and we just can't wait for it. And it's been a long time coming. You think about, you know, past seasons, and Ian referenced the kind of Rodgers one. You know, we went into that thinking that we're never going to get near the title, and obviously we came so close. But I think there's also the point around how excited the players are. They're absolutely chomping at the bit, and you you know, you see the response of some of Liverpool's players where they want to come back to training early, and some of that will be because they're worried about the place and stuff like that, and they know the squad's really competitive and they want to make sure they've got a chance of starting that first match. But also, on the back of things that Daniel Sturridge just said as well, on the tour, it's such a great vibe around the place at the minute, and you don't always get that, and I think that's important as well, because the manager's, he's created something where not only have the fans bought into it, but every single one of the squad's bought into it as well. And I think they know, as footballers, that they've got an unbelievable chance this season to go and do something special. And, you know, if this group of players can go and win a league title for the first time since 1990, well, they're going to go down as absolute superstars. They're going to go down as superstars. And this club will respond like no other club in the league. These fans will respond like no other set of fans. If these players can get a good start and build on that and get momentum and drive forward and maybe put a little bit of fright into Man City as well, because I think those are the two clubs where you'd expect them to come absolutely flying out the blocks. And sometimes it depends on how the fixtures fall as well, and I don't think Liverpool's is too bad. You know, there's kind of out there, but it's not too bad. Jurgen will have taken what we've got. I think the first one against West Ham, I think Gibbo made a point the other day on City Talk, you know, it's probably a little bit of a banana skin now. You know, they've done a lot of business, West Ham, and it could go either way. You know, we can see them either starting really, really well and they all click, or they could just fall to bits because they've got too many players. But overall, this is probably the most excited I've been for the season in such a long time, and this is what we're in it for, Neil.
It is what we're in it for. It's most definitely what we're in it for. Listen, there's loads and loads of stuff knocking around the Anfield Wrap at the minute. There's excellent stuff on our YouTube channel. Gareth did a really good documentary with Sam about penalty kicks and the psychology around them. Going to be doing more and more video this year. Keep your eyes peeled on our YouTube channel, and do subscribe, by the way. We're going to be doing a post-match show immediately after Torino, and that's going to be our first one of them through the season. We're also going to be previewing the first game on video via the YouTube channel, and from there you'll be able to see the cycle we're going to get into around the matches in terms of previewing them, immediate reaction, and then more considered reaction later in the week. That starts after Torino, and we move from there. We're really excited about all of that we're going to be doing. Big thank you to everyone who came out to see us on our tour, and it is now our tour. We did 5 days, 5 nights, and me and John are just about getting over it. He's got his smoothie there. He's putting those into essential nutrients back into his body, and I'm just basically in constant kidney-based agony. But thank you very much to everyone who came out in Charlotte, in New York, in Detroit, in Belfast, and in Dublin. It was the business. We had a fantastic time, and it's all very much appreciated, and more money was raised in Dublin for food banks as well. In €880, so that was fantastic, and someone won the raffle and then donated the prize back for it to be auctioned there and then. So that really is appreciated, and it shows that the fact that everybody does feel as though they're in it together. Thank you very much for listening to the Anfield Wrap. Certainly if you've listened to it live streamed, do listen to our Reds Bet sponsored show on Thursday, 5 hours, maybe with half an hour beforehand or something else, to go right the way through the day as it unfolds. I expect it to be absolutely chaotic as we go right the way through, because that's the way in which we try to go about things. But Andy Heaton's produced this show, and he's shown he can do his bit smoothly, so the pressure's now just on me and John. Thank you very much to John, to Ian, well, both Ian's, Ian Salmon and Ian Ryan. It's been the Anfield Wrap in association with Reds Bet, and we also want to say all the best in his new job for David Lynch.